Hello, and welcome to today's Coppice Dev stream. For those who are new and don't know me, I am Martin Pilkington. I run a small software company called MCube Software in the northwest of England, and when I'm not doing contract work for others, I'm working on my own indie Mac app called Coppice, an app that helps you collect your thoughts together, link them together, and lay them out on an ever-expanding canvas. And today on the dev stream, we're going to be continuing building our image hotspots UI. We made some progress with that on Monday, but got kind of stuck, so I decided to finish the stream. But I've been having thinking about it a bit, and I think I know how I want to actually go ahead with this. And it's basically reusing some stuff we already have. But first, I want to show you what I'm currently excited about, because there was a rumor that came out yesterday. A rumor of the Mac Studio. And I'm pretty excited about this. If it is something that's true, this is basically what I'm hoping Apple will release. This so-called small Mac Pro that has been rumored for a long time. It would be ideal if you had something that was like a lot more powerful than the high-end Mac Mini, but not quite as extreme as a Mac Pro. Something that had a little bit of expandability, but not too much. So I'm hoping Apple can give us that, because that is what I'm looking for a computer. So I've been super excited about this. But I also have another trick to show you. I have been working on the stream. So I now have a chatbot set up that can help with various actions. But I've also been trying to think of a way to improve how I draw stuff, because sometimes I need to sketch something on stream. And what I have been doing is, okay, I'll go in here and do like, let's do 1000 by 1000 pixels in Photoshop. And then I'll just start, like, let's say I'm drawing the hotspots. Well, I'll have to do this and then work out, okay, what brush size do I want? Probably something like that. And then it's, okay, I'll just draw out thing here. And then if I want to explain how the hotspots work, we'll say, okay, so you've got hotspots there and there, there and there. And on the rectangle ones, if you drag this one down, that needs to move out, that needs to move down. And it sort of works, but drawing with a mouse is a pain. And on my desk, I always have this wonderful iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil and various bits of drawing software. So now what I can do is the following. I've got a button here and voila, an iPad suddenly appears on screen. So what can I do here? Well, I can do everything that I could do before. I can draw a rectangle. And then I can draw over here, and then I can draw the arrow. So when you resize down there, this needs to resize that way, that needs to resize this way. That was so much faster, so much easier, and if you compare the result, it's just night and day. And then I can just erase all this, start again. So a new tool in the arsenal to try and build up how I can show you the process of design and development. So that is going to be quite fun to use over time. So let's move over to Xcode. Get rid of that. And discuss what we're going to do. So at the moment, we've implemented a lot of this stuff around resizing and all stuff like this, and then getting it so that you can create a drag state, and then when you get to the dragged event, then you need to do things where you can move it, but you've got to move it so that it doesn't go off the size of the image. And if you drag into the left or the right, then you've got to resize things correctly, but what the user's holding Option down. So there's a lot of complex stuff there. And what I'm probably going to do to simplify this is actually make it a bit more complex. And how that works is I'm going to do this, rather than trying to do this the same way that I did the crop UI, which is fairly simple because the crop UI has one rectangle that just sizes up, sizes down. There's nothing too complex in terms of like holding Option to size both ways and all stuff like that. What I'm going to do instead, because I mean, if I show you the crop view, we have all this stuff that gets us our drag handles and stuff, and the actual interaction, you do mouse down, then you would adjust the crop rect, which determines like, have we dragged something or is it moving? And all it's really doing is like adjusting the crop rect and so on. I mean, we could do it this way, but I'm considering doing it another way. And the other way I'm considering is the way that I do the canvas. So with the canvas, what you have is you have a canvas event context. So you got a mouse event and a key event, and you get down, dragged up, or you get key down, key up. And what the canvas essentially does is when it is going to start, a down event, we create a mouse event context for the location, and then everything gets passed to that context. So all this is it gets current context and does the drag, and then we do the up event and do some tidying up, and then clear it out. And what this canvas layout engine context factory. What this does is, at the point you click down, it determines, okay, what are we doing? Are you doing a canvas selection event? Are you doing a select and move event? Are you doing a resize page event? And it can handle all these things because, like for select and move, it sets the current context, and then it will update all the selected stuff, or it will handle moving, or it will handle double clicking, it will handle shift clicking, it will handle clicking on a link, and all stuff like this. But what it essentially is doing is isolating everything. Like, I could potentially have done select and move differently, but they really need to be the same. But resizing, if you are click on the resize handle, you're resizing, otherwise you're not. Canvas selection, if you're clicking on something that isn't a page, then you need to be, you're doing a drag selection. So I'm considering whether to do it this way. I need most of this functionality. I need select and move, I need resize. I won't be able to reuse these contexts because they are tied to the layout engine, but it would be useful to follow the basic pattern. But I'm still pondering whether to go that approach or whether to try and stick with the current approach for a bit longer. So go back and have another look. So we've got the layout, the hotspot here. You go on your down event. Drop view. Oh. Drop rep for drag point. Have a drag handle, you adjust it, otherwise move it. You know what, I think I might stick with this just for a little while. Just to see how it goes, because I can tidy a few bits and pieces up. Yeah, let's stick with this for now, and if it starts getting a bit too complex, then we can start splitting it out into the context. I mean, at some point it would be nice to actually see if I can abstract the whole thing, where you're just working on a series of rectangles and you just give it the points, because a lot of this is very similar to how the canvas layout engine works, but that is very specific to the canvas in how it's implemented. So it will be very nice to refactor that in the future and have that as a general reusable component. But now I don't think we're going to bother going quite that advanced with things. We'll keep things as they are and yeah, just plod on ahead. So as that is the case, I think what we're going to do is try and copy what we have for the crop. So editor rectangle. Let's take our kind of enum, move this down, this drag handle. Up here, I think that should hopefully compile. Seems like it is. Okay. Oh, no. Let's just drag handle. Let's finally get around to making this a static bar. Because then what we can do is we can actually get rid of this. This can effectively go down here. We could function. Correct. It's not inbounds, it's outbound. To switch south. That never seems to work. Left. Case. That's a fair point. Now let's because these are in a specific order, which we need. These need to be in specific order so that we can find them. This wants to be drag handle. Rather than sticking these on the drag handle, we're just going to leave them in here for this. Slightly different. Right. So you get the drag handle point. Gonna move it. Are you going to adjust resize hotspot using drag? Point. Hey. Which case we can switch drag state.k. No. No. code can. Oh. Okay, stop move. Hotspot. Now, okay, so others. The compiler used to be far better than this. All the others have to resize hotspot. That. Self.current drag state dot no. I'll let drag state done, and then we'll that up. Okay. By the way, if anyone in the chat has any questions about this or about development in general, feel free to ask, or just let me know what you're up to today. If you're doing anything interesting while you're watching, just let me know in chat, and I'll try to get any answers and respond to you as I can. Alright. Put down the vent, drag the vent. That's up there. Right, so the handle is moved, then it's a selection, because you're not going to be able to do a selection by just clicking on the resize handle. And creation is going to depend on the mode. Because if you're in create and you finish a resize, then we're going to create. So what we can actually do here is same thing we have here. We can have private func, select hotspot, drag state, and private func. Drag. Point. B, select hotspot. Create mode, we will finish our creation. Point. Oh, I'm missing helps if you have all of your brackets in place. Actually, I can just do that. I don't need to make that static after all. Right, so we now need to do the deltas. Delta should be fairly do. So we're going to take our point. Let delta is point minus initial. Don't actually want to round this one because we are allowing fractional, because this is sort of relative to the size of the image. So the view will round, so make sure that we get crisp things when it draws, but the actual values will not be rounded because you can actually scale up the image, so the image will not be shown at pixel perfect size. It could be scaled down, it could be scaled up. So we want to make sure that all these points are in image coordinate space so that we have a fixed reference frame from which everything else can be done. So now pass our delta in. Here, just realised we also need other stuff. So select the modifiers. As does resize. Because for the select we need to know, do we have a shift modifier selected? And for resize we need to know, you have options selected. In fact, we could probably do with sticking that on finish creation. Okay. May change finish creation, it may not need any of this stuff, but we'll see. Yeah, unfortunately I'm going to have to cut this stream short because my brain is just not working today. I've had a very long week and I think doing coding even for a bit on a Saturday is a bit too much. I mean, we could try something a bit different. Something where my brain doesn't need to be quite so active. So if I know what we can try doing. Well, if I bring up the Coppice website, I've had this idea. What I want to do is add a development section up here, and when you click on it, it's going to show basically the Twitch stream, and below that links like YouTube and descriptions of the development process and so on. So what I might do, it would also be nice to have, if you visit the website and I'm live, it shows something up here. So what we could do is actually play around with that a bit. So let me just be right back a sec, just so I know what I have up. Wait for this to restart. Okay. Right, so let's switch back and we'll do some work on the web. So let's make sure that I have A. So I have this set up here. What we need to do is add some home. Now we need a new base. Do we? Could possibly just add it as extra. Right, open up the go to main layout. I need to open up. Oh yeah, got that. Been a little while since I had to web stuff. Okay, so that's oh, because we're only showing that down the bottom. 2. Alright, so that is empty. So sorry, Mr. Goku, we're not doing anything like that. Right. Let's try pasting. Hello, Nunchi. It's another Swift developer, though ironically I'm not actually doing Swift at the moment. I'm doing some PHP because my mind's gone and I want to do some work with something a bit more design focused. My brain is just not working. So I'm going to get this working and then I may go back to the Swift. Oh, Silverback Swift, thanks for raiding. Welcome to the channel. This is first time doing this. See if that works. There we go. That works. So, welcome to the channel. Hope you're all doing well. I am currently doing just actually a little bit of quick PHP, just experimenting with something on the website for my app. I'm going to see If this works. Apparently not. Hi Dragon Dust, welcome to the channel. I'm just currently trying to see if I can get Twitch working. It doesn't seem to want to. Oh, I bring this across. This is stuff you can use for embedding. So we've got our width, we've got our height, we've got our channel. That should be all we need. Got Twitch embed. There's stuff there. It's just empty. Uh, okay. I've not had to deal with that before. Bed. Ancestors directive. So how is everyone today? I mean, Silverback Swift, how was your stream? Hopefully it went well. What were you up to? This should be working. Oh, football team site. Oh, is that the app that you were you showed off on Misha B's channel yesterday? The one where I think you had initially done it for rugby union and then you were considering doing it for football. Oh, cool. Feel free to link to it in the chat if you want to. If you've got any sort of website or anything. Right. How do you actually use a content? Example. Any subside program shall let use that. Headers. Okay, so I wonder if I go to Code Igniter, let's. Ooh, new website. Learn. Do they have anything about P responses? Content security policy. Okay, this is going to require a fair bit more analysis to go through this, because this would probably mess up my payment system as well. Let's app config app config app. Let's just go in here and try turning it on. CSP. I'll set that to true. What happens if I reload? Okay, so I lose my fonts for one. But runtime configuration. Where is set in config content security policy? Okay, right. So this is making a bit more sense. Valid so assuming what I can do here is if I want my style sheet, which is in docs. No. Nope. Oh, I wonder. Use.typekit.net. So, if I do that, that in theory, nope, that doesn't reload those. Or do I need to remove the? Okay, that's not working. Okay, well let's try the frame ancestor, which needs to be style sort. Ah, right. Right, so this needs to include embed.twitch.tv, and this could be null, but our style source needs to also include that. Right, and then that needs to appear in. script source, also on the embed.twitch.tv. Refuse to load style sheet. It does not appear in the style source. Oh, is this going to load? Well, it's progress at least. What's failed now? Need to execute script because it's hash. Save inline does not appear in script source directory. Twitch embed ESP. Okay, let's just get caught up with chat. The app, so it's more for team club admins to be able to produce social media images and videos for sharing. Yeah, it's always a case of you think something is going to be simple when you first do it, and then you realise there's a lot more work. For example, I thought it would be very simple to just copy paste the example of a Twitch embed and put it in, and now I'm learning about content security policy. So. Alright. You know what, let's just turn this off and see if that parent thing works. Coppice.com. Hey! The embed is misconfigured. A filter. Okay. So we're getting some issues there. Oh, is this because Twitch updated their API? Have they not updated their own API to use their new API? No, it's doing an embed. This embed is... Oh. That has to be that, I'm betting. Nope, well, it's not that. Earth is going on. Problem is, go to documentation. Documentation does not seem be giving much useful information. I'm bad. I wonder if switch off to doing that player then. Nope. Parent query string value contains invalid. Does it just need to be dev Coppice app? Used to load. Okay, let's give up on this for now. I will have to come back to this. So let's get back to looking at Coppice. So we've got move hotspot, resize, select, finish creation. So what I want, so all those go through there. We've got a drag. This should all be configured, which means that we should be able to do some moving. So let's find our test. Just run through these. So how is everyone's Saturday going so far in chat? Are you having a good start to the weekend? Build failed. Right. Oh, that's me. Modifiers. Right. Oh, do I need to do very clean? Right, so we have everything balanced. So let's try going through our let's do so we have our ret, so we just shift it by delta. We get our that new. Do this simple. F.rect.origin equals f.rect.origin equals f.origin plus delta. I think that should work. So hopefully that should move for us. Yeah, so we've got some things that are actually working. So that's fairly simple. The problem is we now need to do all this and make sure that we can't move beyond bounds. So you're having a good weekend so far, chilling on the couch, and later working a little bit on your side project. Oh, what's your side project, Dragon Dust? Alright. Oh. Let's basically just copy that. Next. Oh, Splinterlands, buddy. What does that do? There we go, all our moving tests are now working. Oh, so it's a card, so it's for keeping track of all your cards then. Oh, that's cool. A H. Aha. So I'm assuming this is your app? Splinter Buddy. I like the design of it. It looks really nice. Especially like the background that you've got going on, just the texture up there and the fonts. Cool. Yeah, it's always nice getting an MVP out. Of course, in my case, the MVP took 12 months to get out. Actually, probably longer than 12 months. But in my case, I do this just as a way of learning, a way of relaxing, a way of just making sure that I get to work on stuff that I want to be working on, rather than just constantly doing contract work. And the contract work can be really fun and interesting, but occasionally it can be a bit iffy. So sometimes you just get a bit too tired and a bit burnt out, and it's nice having your own stuff to work on. Oh, Mr. B did the design. Well, that's probably why it looks good. I've been seeing quite a lot of his designs, and it's definitely got a lot of talent for designing apps. Right, so let's... What can we do here? Let's do light hotspots. So what we want to do is we want the delta, because what we want is to make sure that the delta is 0 for a select so to guard then we're going to do, what do we with the layout? No, we do selected true, and if modifiers shift, that's fair point. If so, if modifiers contain shift, then is selected toggle. Otherwise, in .deselect all selected, and this one is true. Yeah, it helps to test an idea quickly. I mean, in my case, like Coppice is a lot more complex of an app. There was a lot that needed doing, and while I did have half a year that I took off basically just to work on it, just so I could learn some new stuff, do some new stuff, and work on everything around it. It was also a case of spending a lot of time not being able to work on it because I was having to work on other stuff to bring the money in. So it took a while, but it's something that I've really wanted. Because, I mean, if I show you Coppice, so this is Coppice, where you have all your... You can add pages for text editing, for image editing, and so on. You just add them all in as your pages so that you can actually design. Not design, so that you can just put information in. And then what you can do is drag them out onto canvases. So you've got a page here, and you create links between pages, so it works a bit like a wiki. But when you have this on the canvas, you can click and they open up linked to one another. And you can see it remembers what you've had open. So if I select all this and move this up here, but then close it again, it should open up in the place that it was before. So it helps you build stuff up. In fact, now I've finished it, I could probably I am missing stuff in OpenRead. That is so I have this for my Dungeons and Dragons campaign. So for example, in the first session, I have all this set up where you start with the overview, and I've got it where you can go around and you start arriving somewhere. So you get around to stuff like arriving in paragraphs where I'm just like reading all the stuff of what they get here, but then they can find the source of the issue. Then they start scouring the caves, where I have up here, I have all different rooms and then stuff coming off that. So it helps me build all this stuff up so that I can actually basically construct all this and then come back and deal with it later. I've used this for like learning some APIs and stuff. I'll just write things up in here. So it's like a cross between a wiki and a mind map and a note-taking app that's designed just to make it a lot easier to actually use this stuff again. And what I've been working on recently is improving image editing. So I've got stuff like you can rotate, but no, you can see it at the moment. That has got rid of something, which is cropping. So I have like cropping support where I can crop that down. I'll crop that again, and I will shift that over there. You can go back to view mode, and you have full undo redo. And what I'm working on at the moment is hotspots, where you're going to be able to basically drag hotspots over part of an image and turn them into clickable areas where you can click and they will link to other things. So that is what I am currently working on here, which is all this hotspot stuff here. So we now, in theory, have selection working. Hi Uli, how's your Saturday going? Yeah, let's get on to resizing, because this is going to be a more complex bit. So what I want to do is drag state dot handle dot. So if it's top, else drag state dot drag state dot bottom. And ambient is left and right. Oh, hacking away on your programming language. How's that going? Yeah, Dragon Dust. It is. It's sort of trying to use mind mapping, and the reason I built it is that there have been a lot of note-taking apps out there, and they're great for getting stuff into them, but none of them are particularly good at getting stuff out again and actually using it. Like if you just have little bits of notes that you want to throw in and maybe reference them in isolation later so you're not forgetting something, they're great. And I've tried everything from like Evernote to the Notes app to VoodooPad and so on. And for those sorts of things, they're great. But if you have a project that you're working on and you're basically wanting to build up a reference library of lots of things that are connected together, and you want to be able to say, I've got this whole topic over here that has all these different things connected together, and it just so happens that I'm working on this other thing that actually this happens to reference them. I want to be able to sort of grow that out. It's almost like when you're reading through Wikipedia and you start going down the rabbit hole and you open all these tabs. But the problem is they're all in tabs and you can't really see that and see all the relationships between things. So that's what I'm doing with Coppice, where it helps visually represent those relationships because you can build them out on this canvas. You can actually link all the stuff together. There's going to be a lot more rich content. At the moment it's just text and images, but I do want to add stuff like audio, video. Potentially in the future I want to add more tools so that you can actually like add additional stuff onto the canvas for like things that aren't like formal links between. And I also want to have the app help find the links for you. So at the moment, where have I put Coppice? If I open this sample document, do I have it enabled? No. So if I turn on auto detect page titles, let's create a new page and I'll call this Hello World. So just by doing that, I can just go in here and type Hello World, and it will automatically find the stuff for you. So you can create the links yourself. If I want this to go to Hello World, I just start typing Hello World there, but it automatically finds everything for you. So I'm going to try and do the same for image pages, where when I have the hotspots up, and you can have I mean, one example would be like all these bits here where I would have that be a hotspot, that be a hotspot, but like if I have the word pine grasp there, what I'd like to do is use like the machine learning APIs and basically do OCR on images so that it would detect, oh, there's text there, get the rectangle of it and see the text is pine grasp and realize, oh, there's another page in your document that is titled pine grasp, so I'm going to automatically create a link just as it does for text. So that's something that I'm working on for this version, is really making all the images work better, because at the moment all images can do in the current release version is you drag an image in and you can sort of add a description and you can link to them, but you can't do much with them once they're in there. So I want to make them a lot more powerful. So yeah, it's already available. You can find it there. It's a free download for most of the functionality, but then there's a paid upgrade that basically unlocks all the additional functionality. So the auto linking, folders for pages, some additional customization options for canvases, such as like always showing page titles or changing the theme to whatever you want it to be, and also allowing you to have multiple canvases in the document. Otherwise you've got to sort of split it up. So it's been out for quite a while now, probably about 18 months now, but I've been a bit slow on updates, partly because I was moving house last year and that took about 6 months of my free time, so I didn't have much time to work on Coppice, so I've only really managed to fully recover and I'm getting caught up to where I wanted to be. Sounds very similar to the Zettelkasten method. The name sort of rings a bell. I'm not sure whether someone's mentioned that to me before, but yeah, the whole point is trying to create. You don't necessarily have to make them tiny, but making them smaller and linking them together. Because if you have like smaller chunks, you can actually link to them from more places. So that is the basic idea of just letting you link to all these places. So it's sort of a side project. I'm doing contracting about 3 to 4 days a week. So usually I have Mondays off and then every other Friday off. So that's why when I'm doing streaming, I'm streaming every Monday and I'm alternating between Fridays and Saturdays. So I'm generally working on those days and doing the bit over the weekends and when I can. So it is sort of a side project. I mean, it's not, I'll be frank, it's not bringing in a huge amount of money. It's not sort of, I could make more money by just doing contracting. But I'm learning stuff that I haven't done before. Like, I've been doing development for Apple's platforms for getting on for 17 years now. And until I had done Coppice, I had never written a document-based app. Like, I'd started the project and messed around with it for like a few hours and stuff here and there, but I'd never actually properly built one and tested one. And that's something that I've wanted to learn. Something as visual as this, where you have all these things that you're moving around and you've got the arrows moving around and stuff like that. I've never really built anything like that. So there are lots of elements that are fun. I mean, all this stuff like the image rotation that I've got in. I've always used APIs. I've never done actual proper image rotation. Non-destructive cropping. I've sort of built similar things, but nothing quite like that. All this hotspot stuff. Like, a lot of this stuff is stuff that I've sort of done bits and pieces of, but I've never had the opportunity to properly do. And it's also being able to structure the code and everything how I want. It's just been nice to get back into doing my own stuff. So it's like, monetarily it's not worth it, but for my own sort of ability to learn and my own enjoyment of programming, it's more than worth spending the time on. And hopefully one day it will make enough for me to work off. So no, really, it wasn't the actual moving house that was the issue. So like, the packing up and everything was fine. I mean, the only thing that really prevented me from really doing much with the moving house was when I decided the day before moving, oh, before I pack up my iMac, let's update it to the latest version of Big Sur. And then I had my first failed macOS upgrade in like 30 years of using Macs. So that's the only problem I had there. The issue with the moving was the fact that everyone else was moving, and so it took months to get the mortgage sorted. Then there was a bunch of legal stuff to get sorted, and then a bunch of stuff with the house I was moving out of to get sorted, and stuff moving it into this house to get sorted. And it was basically just it took me from deciding to move to actually moving in, took me about 6-7 months. Well, I think I put an offer in on my house at the end of February, the start of March, and it was the middle of July before I moved in, simply because of all the legal stuff and stuff there. So it was just all my free time. I was like working contract work, and all the free time that I would normally spend on Coppice was either dealing with stuff for the house or recovering from the stress of dealing with stuff in the house. And then I moved in and had to recover from that stress, which took a few months, and it's only recently that I've been properly getting back into things. So yeah, there's a reason why I try to avoid moving house. It's because it's far too stressful for me. When you are self-employed, moving house just causes so many issues. What was Apple development 17 years ago like? Oh, well, I started on Xcode 1, so I wasn't old enough to be using Project Builder, but that was still back when you had Interface Builder 2, so it was a completely separate app. So it was before they brought it all in, and I mean, the Interface Builder 2 was when it didn't even attempt to check your header files. So every time you updated a header, you had to drag the header across to Interface Builder to get it to update all the outlets and actions. So yeah, there were a lot of stuff there. I mean, when I was getting started, Core Data was, I think, because I started the tail end of macOS 10.3. So then 10.4 came out and you had all of the stuff like Core Data first being introduced. You had no refactoring in Xcode at that point, though I mean you could argue, given how bad it is, you don't have refactoring in Xcode today. I don't think there was unit test support. There'd been a lot of stuff back then. I mean, a lot of the APIs are fairly similar to what they were. I mean, a lot of stuff has changed quite a bit. I mean, using like tables and stuff is a bit easier now because you don't have to use cells with them. You can use views, but yeah, it was definitely a simpler time. I mean, we didn't have like auto layout. You didn't have to deal with sandboxing or the App Store or anything like that. So it was definitely a simpler time, a somewhat easier time. Yep, iOS definitely didn't exist, so I'm not even sure when I started whether iOS would have existed internally at that point. And it was only a few years after the iPod. No, this is well after the iPod. Or was it? No, it would only have been a few years after the iPod. Oh, my very first iOS app. I don't actually know. I wrote an app called Storyboards. I was meaning the iPod, Uli. The iPod was 2001, wasn't it? And I really started sort of the tail end of 2004. But yeah, my first iOS app, I think it wouldn't have been Storyboards because that was iPad and I'd done a bit earlier. I think it might have been something I did for university. Because the iPhone came out when I was at university, so it came out in, I think it was my first year. It was announced 2007 and released, and then 2008 we had the SDK. But it's like the second year you meant to do like a human-computer interaction module, and the iPhone came out because everything was like all multi-touch and stuff. They now had to change that, so they had to like basically rewrite a bunch of it because it's like, oh, touch screens have changed and how mobile devices the users changed. And then the SDK came out, and I got lucky enough that I got to do my dissertation at university working on the iPhone SDK. And I actually worked on a project around gaming where I basically wrote a game and did it for keyboard and mouse on a Mac, and did it for the same game on iPhone, or on my iPod Touch at the time, to see whether people performed better on keyboard and mouse or on touchscreen, and actually see whether they preferred it on those. I mean, it wasn't amazing research, but it was fun to do, and it just meant I got to spend a fair amount of time working with it. So I think that was probably my first iPhone app of any note. But yeah, I mean, I haven't done a huge amount with iOS, to be completely honest. I've done a bit of contract work, but in terms of what I've released, I've only ever released one iOS app, which was Storyboards, which I ended selling off. But most of my stuff has been Mac. Like, so I think I've released one iOS app, and that was for iPad. But I've had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, included stuff I acquired, 5. I think including freeware, 6. And now Coppice 7 Mac apps in my time. I mean, Coppice is by far the most advanced app that I have built, at least myself. Not the most advanced I've worked on, but a lot of my stuff has been Mac stuff. So I've been very lucky in that I've been able to get a lot of work doing Mac rather than iOS. But yeah, I mean, the community is a very different place as well, because it was a very small, tight and knit community. I mean, this was before Twitter, so you were really using the mailing lists and IRC to stay in touch with people. There was a lot more blogging going on, and it was a lot more US focused in terms of development. And you didn't really have conferences either. You had WWDC as usual, but that was, I mean, for starters, not free. That was like you had to pay for an ADC Select membership just to get the DVDs with the sessions, and that was like $500 a year to get that, and you'll get the DVDs sent out, I think, around like October, November, when Dub was in June. But there weren't really any other conferences around. You started getting, I believe, the C4 conference, and then NS conference in the UK, but they were the only real conferences for quite a while, until the iPhone came out and the SDK came out. So it was a much smaller, much tighter knit community, but I think also had enough of a sharing and a sort of rising tide lifts all boats mentality that has really helped shape the iOS community we have today. I mean, there are problems with the community, but I still hear a lot of people talk about how welcoming the community is compared to some others. So it's nice to see that that has sort of grown out from that. You can never really keep that in things as a community grows, but it's nice to see that the idea that we're all in this together is pretty good. So, of course, the one thing that hasn't changed is Apple's still the 500-pound gorilla in the room, who can smash you at any time. So that has been the same pretty much all the way through. It's just they have different mechanisms on how to do it. When Swift was first introduced, so my view of Swift went very rapidly. The initial one was, oh, that's fantastic, we've been wanting this for a while, because it was advertised as Objective-C without the C. Great, we're going to have this new dynamic dispatch language that's going to have all the great functionality and power of Objective-C, but it's not going to have any of the downsides of C. It's just going to be like a memory safe version of Objective-C. Everything's going to be an object and it's going to be great. It's just going to be like a new version of Smalltalk, but very performant and all stuff like this. And then I used it and I realized, well, I mean, it's kind of like a less worse version of C++. Okay, well, I mean, it's improvement. And then I went and tried it. I was like, yeah, this is sort of not ready yet. They still haven't worked out how strings and arrays are meant to work. I don't think we should start using this for anything in production. So I sort of avoided using Swift until I think it was the tail end of Swift 2, maybe. I mean, Swift 3 was when it first really got ready. It's why I believe the Swift versioning system is that version 1 of a product with Swift in the name is the alpha, version 2 is the beta version, and version 3 is the 1.0. Because if you look at Swift itself, the Swift package manager, it takes until about the third iteration of it before it actually starts being where it needs to be. Swift UI is sort of like that, depending on how restricted you are in what you do. If you keep to what Swift UI is really good at, then that still holds. If you move away from what Swift UI is good at, then you've probably got another 5 or 6 versions before it gets to the 1.0. But yeah, I mean, now, almost everything in Coppice is Swift. I still do some Objective-C for contract work here and there. And I do miss some parts of Objective-C, especially the type system, which was far less frustrating, but Swift has a lot of nice stuff, which I enjoy using. I mean, enums in Swift are, for me, the killer feature. They are fantastic. They make a lot of stuff so much easier, so much nicer. But then there are other things that I don't like protocols, which I constantly use and then regret and just end up creating an inheritance hierarchy, which I don't particularly want to do, but the way protocols work in Swift sort of forces me to. Let's see if I can copy some of this from the crop code. So if we are here, we've got our delta. Delta.y. Sure, we don't go below the minimum size. We don't. Oh, actually, no, we can't copy that because this is going to work a different way. So, whereas cropping, switch cropping, that goes down to a minimum size because you don't want to crop below a certain size, and I'm not letting you sort of go down and beyond. But with hotspots, you can go beyond. In fact, no one was here earlier when I showed off the cool new feature that I've built into Stream. I was showing off the fact that if I wanted to draw something previously, I would have had to open up Photoshop and then go in and let's draw a box, and let's say I was explaining how hotspots worked. Well, I've got to draw the hotspots on, and this is all been drawn with my mouse, and it is not very good. And then I'm just explaining that, oh, if you drag a hotspot down there, then we need that to go to the left and that to go down. That's all the pain, especially when I've realized I have an iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil. So I added the ability to bring my iPad up on screen. And now I can draw that. Oh, right. Okay, that was not a good rectangle, but again. There. So now I can draw my stuff up here. Which makes life a lot easier when I'm trying to sketch things and explain things to people on stream. So, what I am going to do is, so when you have this here, what I want, say you're dragging this hotspot down here, if you are dragging it down, then these are all going to move like that. But what I want to have happen is you to be able to drag this all the way up here. And if that happens, then what you end up doing is going like this. And now this hotspot now becomes your top left. Those swap around, and sort of rather than just, if you change the bottom right, because this one is your origin, you just have to change the width and the height. But the minute you go beyond there, the point you're dragging now becomes the origin, and you're sort of fixing on the opposite side. So I can't reuse the code that I've got for the cropping because I want to be able to have it work that way, if that makes sense. So we need to work out how to get this working, and if we get it working in one direction, it should be easy enough to get it working in all the other directions. So let's hide the iPad and get rid of Photoshop. So if you are in the top, what we basically want is we want to get the origin of the initial rectangle. Right, well let's do the bottom, because it's a bit easier to think about it, because if you have the bottom, all you're doing is you're changing the height. So we'll work this way because then you don't have to think about changing origins as well. So at least not until you start heading up. So if you change the bottom, then what we want is we want to work out our delta. So our delta is just delta y, and then what we're going to get our adjusted rect, which is our rect for now, and do the size dot height equals rect dot size dot height plus delta. So we do that, and that should let us drag down. Now, at the moment, this will let us drag down beyond the bottom edge. So what we need is if I did height. So if the current height plus the delta is greater than self.image size dot height, then the delta equals self.image size dot height minus the current height. Now the reason we do oh actually no, minus drag state. Actually, we don't want adjusted rect. You want the drag state dot initial rect. Then want drag state want adjusted rect dot origin dot y. Now the reason we're doing it this way is that I could, using the events, get, for example, look up here. I'm getting the delta here, but what I could do is, if I had like an NS event, I could just get the delta x and the delta y, and basically just, okay, I've got a point, I'm going to shift it by delta x and delta y. The problem there is that that does not track very well, because eventually it does get out of sync, especially if you're wanting to round things so that they display correctly. So what is actually easier, or not necessarily easier, what is better to do is on the down event, you store, okay, this was the initial point that was clicked or tapped, and this is the initial size. And every time you drag, you basically perform the full calculation again. So rather than each dragged event, you're just moving it by the delta, you're saying, okay, the dragged event is at point x. What is the delta between the x and the initial point? And then you do all the calculation and you move it as though it was just the first dragged event that dragged it by that much. And that just makes things move a lot easier, track the mouse a lot better, and just basically stay a lot more in sync. So the reason we do this is we're basically setting the delta to be the height of the image minus the y coordinate of our adjusted rect, which is our initial rect. So it's basically going to make the height basically however high it is from where the y is down to the bottom of the image. So that should, in theory, make a bunch of our tests work. If I go resize bottom points and I run the test, hopefully a bunch of these should now pass. Say that, but now the build fails. Why? Why the hell is it imported Coppice? Honestly, this auto import that they added in Xcode, and sometimes it's great, in other times it seems to import the strangest things. Okay. Oh. Nope, that 50, 60. hotspot, you edit, get the start point, drag it by delta N. Oh, I've not actually changed soft dot actually correct. But that one not. So that seems to be doing a move down. So why is it finding? I think I drag kind. In the map, we should be looking bottom left. Ah, that should be max Y. Oh yes, I do. I'm very bad at actually hiding stuff. The worst one is muting. I've actually changed my Stream Deck setup today. So I'm going to mute just so that you can see what I have set up. Oh, it doesn't actually show it. Where are we? Streaming. Stream Deck. There we go. So I have it pulsating now whenever I mute so that I can actually see. It stands out a bit more than what I had before. So that should hopefully mean that I have fewer instances when I accidentally mute things. But yeah, I've been enjoying getting the Stream Deck set up because I've got it all set up to do various commands and so on. So showing how to my iPad, I can toggle the sidebar, toggle between all of my different avatars. So it's been quite fun to play around with. I'm actually using it for various other things as well. I've got it set up for Photoshop, and when I'm running Dungeons and Dragons, I have a bunch of hotkeys set up on it. So, right. So, hopefully, these work now. No, that won't work actually because I've set that to max X. Let's check that these are at. So, when I'm doing the right, they should be max X. If I'm doing the left, they should be min X. If I'm doing at the bottom, they should be max Y, at the top, min Y. Let's try that again. I mean, technically max X did work because it's same width and height, but there we go. So moving down increases the height. Moving up but not beyond the red bounds decreases the height. Moving beyond red bounds fixes Y at all top and... How is that working? What? Is CG Ret smarter than I think it is? Ret. Rect in this. Rect dot size dot height. If I say it's 10. 10. Rect. How are these passing? Did the delta y to minus 120? That should not be working. It's always disconcerting when you have unit tests and they pass and you haven't implemented the code to make them pass yet. Come on, you can test any time. There we go. So our delta is minus 120. So our adjusted rect is boost 50, 100 minus 20 of dot rect. Print out left hotspot. Oh. That's possibly where the smartness comes in. X, let's say X is 70, Y is 50, width is minus 20. Right. No. Well, let's just do so 20, 30. You have 50, 50, 100. Minus 20. So we have our two rects, and they are different. One is 50, 30, 120. One is 50, 50, 100 minus 20. But if I do rect equals rect 1, what does that say? True. And this is why you always end up learning new stuff, because I had no idea CG rect did that. It doesn't say that equality of CG rect is not, are these values the same? It is, are they functionally the same? Which actually begs an interesting question. So what I will let view I do 50, 50, 100, oh, 50, 31, 20. And then add subview. Subview. Got one say true, subview dot set dot background color. Okay. What if I do 50? Unable to create bitmap representation, so that doesn't work there. Okay. So all these XCT assert equals, I am going to have to change. Let's just do XCT assert wect equals R1 CG vect R2 CG vect. Yeah, I don't think it's the fact that they're using CG float, it's the fact that they are saying, are they logically equivalent? Like, if you have a rect that, I mean, if I bring up, if you have a rect that, well, that, let's bring up the iPad. So if you have a rectangle that is at point 50, 50, and its width, no, sorry, 50, 30, its width is 100, and its height is 20, then you have a rectangle here. But if you have a rectangle whose origin is at point 50, 50, and its height is, its width is 100, and its height is minus 20, width 100, they're functionally the same rectangle. You're just allowing negative heights. You're just saying that the height is 20, but it's sort of going up from the origin. So the equality is saying, are these the same? And yes, they are. The problem is, the minute you stick that into an NS view, it doesn't like it because it doesn't like negative sizes. But what that means is that I need to do this. That should be where I do assert equals r1.origin just be able to test the origin versus the size. Because then they won't be equal. So yeah, if I do assert on the origin and assert on the size, then they won't be equal, because in this case, rather than them being functionally the same, you're then just comparing 50-30 against 50-50, which is not the same, and you're comparing 120 against 100 minus 20, which is the same. They're only the same when combined into a rect. So, you learn something new every day. So, now I need to go through and see all of these. I need to replace XCT. So, I hate it when that. XCT assert rect. And we want top, bottom, right, the edge cases and creating a hotspot. So I'm going to replace all in selection there. Those should still be correct, but it's worth checking. So now, hopefully, if I build and run, not equal, correct, equal. Don't need the static. That. So, let's see if this get rid of that breakpoint now. So, moving down increases the height, moving up but not beyond the rep bound decreases the height, and now these ones are failing as they should. Okay. So, as this was only meant to be a 2-hour stream today, I think I am going to call stream there. And we will pick this up on Monday. Now, I am going to be streaming on Monday and Friday next week, but I do have the week off from contracting. So I don't know what times yet, because I have other stuff to do during the week, because it's partly a get to work on my own stuff, partly a relax and recover from a lot of hard work week. But I will probably be doing some impromptu streams at some point Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. I may even play around with the times. Maybe doing earlier in the day and later in the day on some of the days, just to see if I can see how different times work. But I will probably be streaming every day next week if I can. But it depends how I'm feeling on those days. But before then, we'll probably be picking this up on Monday, where hopefully we can get this finished up, and then I can start working on some of the UI side of things, and we can make something a bit more visual than constantly looking at code and unit tests. But hopefully you've all enjoyed the stream. Thank you all for coming along today. Let's have a look and see, is there anyone? No one I'm following is online. I'm going to see if there's anyone we can raid potentially. Are there any Swift developer line? Nope, seems that we may currently be the #1 Swift Apple platform stream. Someone in Turkish, but nope, there does not seem to be anyone else on right now. So, well, in that case, I will leave you all here and hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I will see you again on Monday at around 2 PM. So hopefully you can join me again there. In the meantime, happy coding.